My wife's message came during her trip with friends. I'm not coming back. I found someone better and younger than you. She transferred all our savings from our joint account to her personal one. I only replied, good luck. The next morning when she checked her balance, I signed the divorce papers, thinking the worst pain was behind me. But then my brother showed me a detail in the documents, something that listed me as a guarantor for a $175,000 loan taken out by my ex-wife's lover. I had no idea. They used my name, my assets, my trust to prop up their business that I thought I'd explode with rage. But that's when I decided to do things differently and make sure both she and her lover paid for every cent they tried to steal from me. And you know what? They never saw it coming. My name is Leonard. I'm 54 years old, standing in the kitchen of our apartment in Des Moines, staring at my phone. It's 11:42 a.m. on a Thursday. My wife, Dana, is supposed to be on day 4 of a girls' trip to Palm Springs. Her message arrived with a screenshot, a transfer of $118,000 from our joint account to her personal one. I set the phone down and finished my coffee. 15 years of marriage summed up in 2 sentences and a screenshot. 4 months, there were signs, weekend trips that kept getting longer, new clothes she never wore around me, calls that ended the moment I walked into the room. I noticed everything. I'm a forensic accountant. Spotting discrepancies is how I make a living. But I stayed quiet. Maybe that was my first mistake. Or maybe it was marrying someone who thought my work was just spreadsheets and boring numbers. I opened my laptop and logged into an email account Dana didn't even know existed. 3 notifications from the bank's security system were waiting. Someone had tried to change the passwords on accounts she didn't know about. She was being meticulous. I had to respect that. I picked up my phone and typed 2 words, good luck. Then I called my brother Jason. Remember that contingency plan we discussed 5 years ago? I asked. It's time. You sure? He replied. Yeah. She just made her move. I hung up and glanced at our wedding photo on the wall, the only picture in the apartment of us together. I should have noticed that too. I met Dana Bowman at a University of Iowa alumni event. I was 38, freshly divorced from a brief first marriage and 100% focused on growing my forensic accounting firm. Dana was 34, vibrant, ambitious, and completely uninterested in what I did. I don't need to understand the details, she'd say whenever I tried to explain a case, as long as you make enough for us to live well. We married after a year of dating. I helped her open her yoga studio, funding it entirely with my savings. When she wanted a bigger house in a better neighborhood, I agreed. When she wanted luxury cars and expensive trips, I signed the checks. My dad warned me once while we were fixing his deck. He paused, hammer in hand, and said, "Son, I notice your wife spends a lot of your money. Just make sure she values what you do to earn it." I brushed it off then, but his words stuck with me. 6 years into the marriage, I started restructuring my estate, legally just to protect myself. I set up 2 LLCs, established trusts, invested in crypto, and opened offshore accounts for international clients. Dana only knew about our joint account and savings. Nothing else. I watched her get deeper into the fitness influencer world. Her Instagram following grew from thousands to tens of thousands. She started traveling with the wellness crew, first weekends, then full weeks. "You wouldn't like it," she'd say. "It's just yoga talk and detox juices." Last Christmas, she forgot my birthday. When I mentioned it the next day, she gave me an expensive watch. "I've just been so busy with the studio expansion," she said. I accepted the gift, but that night I finalized my contingency plan. The signs were all there. I just didn't want to see the full picture. The morning after her message, I woke up early and made coffee. Even with my world crumbling, habits are hard to break. I logged into my custom financial management system, built for my firm but adapted for personal use. With a few clicks, I activated the contingency protocol Jason and I had designed years ago. First, I froze all joint accounts and credit cards. Then I reported the $118,000 transfer as suspicious, using my bank contacts to expedite the process. I sent documents to my lawyer, proving financial misconduct, and instructed him to start divorce proceedings immediately. I called my mom. Dana left me, took the money and put my stuff in storage, all while claiming she was on vacation. My mom was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry, Leonard, but I can't say I'm surprised. What now? What I've been preparing for years, I replied. Protecting what's mine. An hour later, Dana's name lit up my phone. I declined the call. 10 more followed. Then a text, "What the hell did you do? The money's gone and my cards don't work." I didn't respond. Instead, I drove to the storage unit she'd mentioned in her message, used the code she sent, and retrieved 2 boxes with my clothes and laptop. The rest, family photos, books, my dad's keepsakes, were gone. That's when something in me hardened. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about 15 years discarded without a shred of consideration. It was about someone who thought they could erase me from the life I helped build. I stopped at a coffee shop and opened my laptop, accessing financial databases only licensed investigators can use. I dug into everything I could find on Trey Harmon, the fitness influencer Dana had been tagging in photos for months. Her, someone better. What I found confirmed my suspicions. Trey's gym was drowning in debt, 3 maxed out business credit cards, a lease he couldn't afford, and worse, Dana had co-signed a car loan with him 2 months earlier. I closed the laptop and checked into a hotel. For the first time in years, I felt completely clear about what I had to do. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. Monday morning, I walked into my office like nothing had happened. My assistant, Valerie, looked up, surprised. "Leonard? I thought you'd take a few days." "Dana called here 3 times, she continued. "Said there was a misunderstanding with your accounts and she needs to talk to you urgently." I shook my head. "If she calls again, tell her to contact my lawyer." By noon, Dana went from phone calls to showing up in person. The receptionist buzzed me. "Your wife's here. She's very insistent." I sighed and went to the lobby. Dana stood there, designer sunglasses pushed up, yoga outfit perfectly coordinated. She smiled when she saw me, the same smile she used 15 years ago when she wanted something. "Leonard, there's been a huge misunderstanding with the bank," she said loudly for everyone to hear. "Our accounts are all frozen." "No misunderstanding," I replied quietly. "You transferred money without authorization. The bank flagged it as fraud." Her smile faltered. "It was our joint account. I'm your wife. You're my soon-to-be ex-wife who emptied our savings and told me she'd moved on with someone new. That's textbook financial misconduct." Her voice dropped to a furious whisper. "You can't do this to me. I already put a down payment on a new apartment. I made commitments with Trey Harmon. Yes, I know about those commitments." Her face paled. "Are you investigating me?" "No. Just protecting myself from fraud." "I'll fight this," she growled. "I'm entitled to half of everything." I looked her in the eye. "Half of what's in those accounts, sure. But it seems you think that's all there is." She blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" "You'll find out during the asset division," I said and walked back to my office. That afternoon, I got an email from Dana's newly hired lawyer, demanding immediate access to all my financial records and threatening to accuse me of accounting irregularities if I didn't comply. It was an amateur move, a baseless threat. I forwarded it to my lawyer with one line: "Proceed as planned. By evening, Dana had rallied our mutual friends." My phone filled with texts asking why I was being so vindictive and controlling. No one asked where she'd been the past week. No one asked who she was with. No one mentioned the money she took. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I went to the gym, not Dana's studio or Trey's fancy fitness center, but the community center where I've worked out for years. I lifted weights until my arms gave out, then went back to the hotel. The trap was closing, but not around me. 3 days later, my lawyer called. "We found something interesting," she said. "Dana's been siphoning money from the joint account for over a year. Small transfers at first, then larger ones. To where? I asked, though I already suspected. Various accounts, some to her personal savings, but most to a company registered to Trey Harmon. Nearly $80,000 total. And she used our joint account as the source? Yes. That lets us include financial infidelity in the divorce petition. I thanked her and hung up. It didn't surprise me, but the confirmation still stung. Dana hadn't just traded me for another guy, she'd been planning it for over a year, funding her escape and her new boyfriend's business with my money. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. "You'd better back off. Dana deserves better than you. Don't make this worse than it needs to be." Trey Harmon jumping in directly? Interesting. The next morning, I went to my brother's house. Jason works in digital security, a perfect complement to my financial expertise. We'd collaborated on cases before, but this was personal. "I need everything you can find on Harmon Fitness LLC," I said. "Bank records, loans, credit applications. Everything." Jason raised an eyebrow. "All through legal channels, right?" "Of course. We're just connecting public dots faster than most could." 3 hours later, we had our answer. Trey Harmon wasn't just in debt, he was sinking. His social media screamed success, but his business was bankrupt. New equipment, expansions, promotional events, all funded by high-risk loans and, more recently, Dana's investments. But there was more. Something Dana couldn't have known. "Look at this," Jason said, pointing at the screen. "Harmon applied for a small business loan 4 months ago. Used the gym's equipment as collateral." "That's standard," I replied. "Yeah, but look who co-signed." I leaned forward. The document showed Dana's signature on a $175,000 loan for equipment. "She co-signed before leaving you," Jason said quietly. "But here's the kicker. The loan specifies joint spousal liability. They used your marital status to get better terms." I stared at the screen. "She put my assets as collateral for his loan without my knowledge?" "Exactly. And there's more. 3 credit cards, a leased car, and a new commercial space lease, all co-signed by Dana, all using marital assets as collateral." I stood and walked to the window. Outside, kids played in the neighbor's yard, oblivious to the complications of adult life. "She has no idea what she's done," I said finally. "And neither does he." The next morning, I met with my lawyer and laid out everything we'd found. "I want to move fast," I said, "before they realize what's happening." She reviewed the documents and nodded. "We'll file for an emergency asset protection order today. The loan fraud alone is grounds to freeze everything until the divorce is settled." That afternoon, I went to Harmon Fitness. The gym was sleek, with motivational quotes plastered on the walls and Trey's face on the entrance. Inside, 20-somethings in expensive workout gear took selfies between poorly executed sets. Trey spotted me immediately. Taller in person, with a fake tan and perfect teeth, the kind of guy who built a career on looks. He walked over, hand extended, smile rehearsed. "You must be Leonard," he said. "Dana's told me a lot about you." "I bet she has," I replied, ignoring his hand. "We need to talk privately." His smile wavered, but he led me to his office. Glass walls, visible to all, but soundproof. "How can I help you?" he asked, closing the door. I placed a folder on the desk. "These are all the financial documents tying you to Dana. Loans, credit cards, leases, all co-signed using our marital assets as collateral." He picked up the folder cautiously. "I don't understand." "It's simple. Dana used our marriage to secure your business loans. Now we're divorcing and those guarantees are invalid." The color drained from his face as he flipped through the papers. "But these are legitimate business agreements between me and Dana." "Maybe. But the banks approved them based on our combined assets and income. Assets she no longer has access to." He closed the folder. "What do you want?" "Nothing from you. Just thought you should know what's coming. The banks will call in those loans soon." "Dana said you were rich," he said, his voice hardening. That money wasn't an issue for you. Money was never the issue, I replied. Trust was. I stood to leave but paused at the door. One more thing. When Dana left, she took some items of sentimental value to me, family photos, my dad's watch, things money can't replace. He stared at me for a long moment. I'll see what I can do. I nodded and left. The next day, a courier dropped off a box at my hotel. Inside were the missing photos, my dad's watch, and other personal items. No note. That afternoon, my lawyer confirmed the emergency asset protection order had been granted. All shared assets would remain frozen until the divorce was finalized. I checked my financial management system. Dana had tried accessing the frozen joint account 17 times in the last 24 hours. She'd also attempted to open a new credit line using our house as collateral. Denied. My phone lit up with her name again. This time I answered. What did you do? She screamed, her voice shaking. The bank called in all of Trey's loans. All of them. They're taking the equipment tomorrow. That's a shame, I said calmly. This is revenge, Leonard. You're destroying him just to get back at me. I'm not doing anything to him. I'm protecting myself from fraud. You used our marriage to guarantee his loans without my knowledge or consent. That's illegal. We can work this out, she said, her voice suddenly softer. Come home. Let's talk. 15 years of marriage and she still thought she could manipulate me that easily. There's nothing to work out, I said. The divorce is moving forward. So is the fraud investigation. And Trey's about to learn the hard way what due diligence means. I hung up and blocked her number. That night, I slept better than I had in months. 3 weeks later, I sat in a conference room as Dana and her lawyer arrived for court-ordered mediation. She looked exhausted. Designer clothes and perfect makeup couldn't hide the strain. Her lawyer spoke first. My client is willing to be reasonable about the asset division, despite the aggressive tactics employed so far. My lawyer smiled politely. Glad to hear that because we have an update. She slid a document across the table. The bank concluded its fraud investigation. They determined Dana forged Leonard's signature on multiple loan documents, using marital assets as collateral without his knowledge. Dana's lawyer skimmed the document, paling. We'll need time to review this. Of course, my lawyer said. But it's worth noting the bank has already referred the case to the prosecutor. This meeting is just a courtesy before criminal charges are formalized. Dana stared at me wide-eyed. Criminal charges, Leonard? You can't be serious. I didn't file a complaint, I said. The bank did. That's what happens when you commit loan fraud. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear. Dana shook her head vehemently. If Ms. Bowman is willing to sign our divorce agreement today, my lawyer continued, Leonard is prepared to provide the bank with a statement that could mitigate the criminal implications. He'll also refrain from pressing charges for the theft of personal items and unauthorized account transfers. I watched Dana's carefully constructed world collapse. She'd expected anger, jealousy, maybe even pleading. What she didn't expect was consequences. The agreement is generous, I said quietly. You keep your yoga studio, which has always been profitable. You keep your car and personal belongings. You get no alimony and assume responsibility for the debts. And Trey? She asked, almost in a whisper. Mr. Harmon's financial troubles are his own, my lawyer replied. But without your husband's assets backing the loans, we understand the bank has already begun foreclosure proceedings. Dana signed the papers without further argument. As we left the conference room, she grabbed my arm. I never thought you'd react like this, she said. You always just took everything quietly. That was my choice, I replied. Just like all of this was yours. I walked away without looking back. A month later, I left the hotel and moved into a small house near downtown Des Moines. Nothing fancy, a solid craftsman that needed some work. The kind of project to keep my hands busy and my mind at peace. I heard through mutual friends that Dana had moved to Colorado for a fresh start. Her Instagram showed mountain photos and inspirational quotes about new beginnings. Trey's gym had been sold to a national chain, and he'd moved to Miami to expand the brand. Neither mentioned what happened. People rarely advertise their failures. My brother Jason came over one Saturday to help install new kitchen cabinets. Heard from Dana? He asked, measuring hinges. Nope, I said. And I don't expect to. You could have taken everything. The fraud charges alone would have insured it. I shrugged. What for? It's not my problem anymore. We worked in silence for a while, the rhythm of measuring, cutting, and assembling almost meditative. I'm thinking of taking some time off, I said. Maybe head to Minnesota, do some fishing at the cabin. Dad would have liked that, Jason replied. You haven't been there since he passed. That night after Jason left, I sat on the back porch with a glass of bourbon. The neighborhood was quiet, broken only by the occasional dog bark or kids' laughter. So different from the gated community Dana insisted on. Somehow, it felt more real that I thought about the last 15 years, how I'd let someone else define my life, my worth, how I'd seen the signs but chose to ignore them, and how, when the time came, I was ready because, deep down, a part of me always knew this day would come. I didn't feel victorious or vindicated, just free. The next morning, I called the office and told them I'd be taking 2 weeks off. Then I packed a bag, locked up the house, and hit the road north. No itinerary, no expectations, and for the first time in years, no invisible ledger of grievances to balance. Heredity's comment. Ladies and gentlemen, some say the best revenge is living well. But sometimes, living well means letting the bank do the dirty work for you. Leonard didn't yell, didn't make a scene, didn't stoop to their level. He just laid out the facts, protected what was his, and let the weight of justice fall where it belonged. Trey thought he'd scored the deal of a lifetime, until he learned that money borrowed on lies doesn't last. And Dana? She found out that trust, once broken, can't be bought back with apologies or Instagram motivational quotes.